Hi, I'm Robert Yap, here with you for Studio 35's acclaimed gaming series review of Crysis.
With a huge selection of titles at the best price, Eneba offers the best gaming deals with over 2 million monthly users. If this sounds like it's for you, use our link.
In 2007, Crytek released Crysis as the best looking game ever made, leading on to a whole generation of gamers scrambling on to get the latest and greatest hardware just to run the game in playable frame rates. The game brought every single consumer grade PC that any gamer had to its knees, and hence led on to the infamous phrase, "Can it run Crysis?" While the original Crysis may not be that hard to run on today's software, running the game was a marvel back then. It was so notorious that after 13 years, Crytek has listened to gamers and remastered the game with new modern mechanics, and which has brought back, of course, decades-old memes. Along with it, the trend of extremely demanding games that just any old computer can't run. So, even with the new kid on the block, let's take a look at the origin and see what made the game so prevalent and how it stacks up with a modern title 13 years later. Going in Crysis over a decade after its initial release is not such a bad experience. The UI does feel a bit mid-2000 like, but overall the interface and everything about Crysis stacks up incredibly well in regards to making the UI easy to navigate and provides a responsive experience. But of course the actual game is where the real magic of Crysis happens, and honestly, Crysis even now does not look too bad, which we will get into a bit later, so for now, let's see how well the game design of Crysis stands out. Game design wise, of course, Crysis has ancient elements of old gameplay scattered all over. Crysis is designed like it's supposed to be an open world game, but since the game map is divided into different levels locked out through the map, it provides a very much sandbox-like play system that was very common back then. The players don't just feel suffocated in any area, as the players can practically do anything they want to complete the objectives, and each level is huge, so it doesn't really matter that much. Elaborating more on what you can do in Crysis, and this is, well, almost everything. Players can either hop on a vehicle, smash into an enemy base, or play stealthily, killing one enemy at a time. This type of gameplay is very much like the playstyle we see in more modern titles like the Assassin's Creed series, or just in the plain Fallout franchise. But the scope of this playstyle is somewhat limited in Crysis because of the locked areas, but in our opinion, as mentioned before, that does not affect the game experience all too much. Other than the locked environment, the gun system in Crysis is quite raw and exceptionally diverse to say the least, in that the gun customizations and what the player can do with each attachable make Crysis stand out as a shooter title, and the nano-suit game mechanic makes it even better. But the game does not stop there. The huge amount of game physics objects available in Crysis where the environment essentially makes the game feel alive, and is very much unique even when compared to modern titles. Now back to how the game looks. As previously mentioned, Crysis still looks as stunning as any new modern day game would. The facial animations, the details, textures and each and every single object make it one of the most vibrant titles even to this day. But it does have some caveats. You begin to see the age of the game in the environment, especially in the rocks where they look very flat, much like rocks did in much older games. And rightfully so, as tessellation was not really a thing back in 2007, and only in the last 6 years has it slowly become a standard in video game design. That is countered with unique foliage, where the leaves and grass were individually textured rather than having an image represent them in the environment. Overall, Crysis looks absolutely stunning, and playing through the game is just pure power fantasy. Even after over a decade after its release, the excellent game design, the extremely high raw graphical capability, and just fun game mechanics make the original Crysis stand out as just as good a game on par with most AAA titles. And this too with the remaster, the game has finally fixed all the graphical caveats, and has essentially become the most fun shooter game anyone could ever want to have a fun play with. And that was Studio 35's acclaimed gaming series review of Crysis. So tell us, what was your favourite thing about the game? Do you think it was surpassed by its sequels? And how does it stack up to you against the competition? And while you're here, why don't you like this video as it makes our content more visible? If you like what we do here and you do want to catch future content, you can subscribe to the channel. Sharing this video across all your favorite social media platforms to support our growth is also extremely highly appreciated by our team.
If you've always wanted to jump into the world of VR game, there's no better start than Vive using our link.